Great. So the big topic then really is talking around the epic volumes of challenges that you guys have to overcome every year. We've just talked about drought. Let's continue to finish that one first, and then we'll talk about frost. We'll talk about rainfall. We'll talk about pests, etc.
Okay.
Um, Drought. It's not something that if you instigate logic in your mind about Virginia and you learn about its levels of rainfall, drought is not something that you normally would consider discussing. Is this something that has become a recent issue in Virginia, summer droughts, or is it always been there? Is it something that's changing? Because it's not what people talk about with Virginia challenges typically.
You're right. What we get for weather in this summer is we'll get the thunderstorms. We'll get a storm that'll roll through. We generally will not get a 2-day rain or a day-long cool soaking rain. We'll get a storm that comes in. It may last an hour or so. It may have some wind with it. Certainly we'll have a chunk of rain. Sometimes it comes with hail. Sometimes some of these can be damaging. But if they don't come, there's really nothing else to kind of feed those vines as we need them. Our vineyards generally are relatively shallow rooted because the vines are used to having moisture up higher in that top level of soil. In California, they don't get any rain really in the summer, and it's all about irrigation and water management that way. When I first got here in '97, a few of the vineyards had irrigation, but most of them didn't. And I put some in, and it was like, well, we never use it. Why would we want to have it? And now some of those old vineyards, I'm very glad when I go back and I'm able to turn that irrigation on during the summer. It made a big difference in the health of the vine. And we're not just talking about, the crop this year. We're talking about the health of the vine throughout its lifetime. So it needs that moisture because it's not going to get the nutrients. It's not going to work. When you go out on a hot day and you touch a leaf, okay, if that leaf is cool, it's aspirating. The moisture is coming up and it's working. That it's absorbing that sunshine and energy. But if it's hot, if it's a hot day and that vine is not comfortable, it will shut down and you won't feel that cool. So that's just a simple thing that we do to see how are the vines doing. Is this working? And it's tough when you're wasting, I don't want to say you're wasting sunshine, but essentially you're in the soil, you're in the solar energy engineering business. You want to take that energy and turn it into grapes.
Yeah.
And if it's so hot and so dry, your vines aren't working. Guess what? You're not making it.
And with these, a lot of producers across Virginia, you mentioned that irrigation is not as common. What is the result of a real intense drought? Is it just that the vine struggles during that year, or do you see eventually death of vineyards across the state? What's the problem with it?
It depends on how you manage it. So this year I had some third-year vines, and we went through, and the vines were showing challenges. So in some cases we dropped the fruit. In some cases I dropped it a week late, and the vine died. Okay.
Right. So you're dropping, just so everybody knows, you're dropping fruit so the vine can actually just concentrate on survival rather than
exactly.
Right.
You've got a sink. If you got a truck that's broken, what's the first thing you do? Take the stuff out of the load of the truck and let it run on its own and see if that's going to work.
Shed the ballast. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what we were doing to give these vines a chance to survive through the challenge points. You can drive down the row and put some water down, and we did a lot of that. And a lot of other wineries were doing that during that drought, because it's a short thing. You're working from the top down, but more water. Some water is better than no water.
Yeah.
And if it gets something, that's doing something, and and we feel better doing something rather than, just watching.
Yeah. And this may seem like a silly question, but what is water availability like? Because, of course, in some regions, maybe northern Chilean regions where there is severe droughts near the Atacama Desert, they just can't have access to water. In California, similar things are happening. What is it like in Virginia? Do you have easy access to water for agriculture?
Overall, we do. It's not, in California, I mean, that was all desert that they turned into something else. We've been here for a long time. Our mountains are old. Our soils are deep. We have, for me, where I am, we have aquifers underneath. So the water table is good.
Right.
There's a lot of lakes and ponds and things like that in the area. Virginia is known as a green region.
Yeah.
Okay. So overall, we don't have, it's not like other areas where it just drops to, it's all beige through the summer months.
Yeah.
So we do have moisture. We're able to get the water that we need. There may be some engineering needed to be done. But overall, we're in pretty good shape as far as the actual water that we can utilize.
I remember I mentioned that I had my mini moon in Virginia, and my wife went to university in DC.
Okay.
And in those 5 days we were there in Virginia, one of the days you mentioned the rainfall is quick and heavy. And it was for about 2 or 3 hours, it was just solid, heavy rain. And I remember, thinking immediately, I was like, oh, not on our mini moon, being a bit disappointed. But my wife said, but you're experiencing Virginia, you're experiencing DC. This is the way it is. This is the way it rains. I was like, oh, okay, it's quite interesting to know that.
We definitely embrace those storms when they come. It's like, I mean, my wife is the same way, where it's like, we get the spot, you watch the storms, you get some good lightning bolts. Things move around a little bit, but then it's over, and it's a different feel afterwards. Sometimes you'll get those rains and it just adds to the humidity, and afterwards it's like, oh my God, now it's really hot. Rather than cooling things down. But you will see it, it'll drop 20 degrees in the temperature, Fahrenheit, when that hits. So, there's a lot of change. And that's the interesting thing, the dynamic thing about growing and farming here, is that nothing's ever the same. And those storms roll through, and it changes things on a quick level.
Yeah.
And they also are here and not there, or there and not here.
Yeah,
so
very localized. Yeah.
Very localized. So, this last round, it's like, God, they had it, 5 miles south of me. And I've got to look at all the different vineyards that I manage and see, okay, did they get it or didn't they get it? And how are we going to adjust accordingly?
Yeah, complex, very complex.